Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome back. So good to be here. Right off the bat, I do need to apologize. I know this particular episode is going to be coming out at least later in the day, potentially later in the week than my episodes normally come out. We've got some post-production setbacks happening. The holiday season is really throwing us all for a loop. So, holiday shenanigans, they just get in everybody's way. It's a stressful time. Holidays are stressful for people, which is a shame. They shouldn't be. They should be like happy and happy-go-lucky and not really stressful at all, but they're not. They're precisely the opposite, which I think is fucking lame, but it is what it is. That's the way of the world. I have an interesting topic this week, and I don't know, I might lose some of my female viewers on this one because I'm basically going to be talking about balls. Maybe I'll gain a few chicks. I don't know. But the reason I need to bring this up is because there seems to be a craze happening, a health craze going on, and that's a lot of men trying to boost their testosterone levels. It's almost like a pop culture thing at this point. Like many people, whether it's on social media like Instagram pages or Twitters or even just in everyday life, I've noticed a lot of guys at the gym talking about it, a lot of guys even in the workplace. And it's very, very bizarre. And I don't think it's an accidental thing. I think a lot of people have been talking about this for a while, but I just wanted to touch on it because people are fucking stupid and they're going to take this in a really stupid direction. And I wanted to hopefully try to pump the brakes on that a little bit. But first things first, I want to make one thing very clear. I'm not a fucking doctor. There's a lot of people out there who might take something that they hear on this show as like medical advice. And if you do that, you should stay in your house for the rest of your life. This is not a hospital. This is a podcast. And I'm not a doctor. So nothing that you hear on this show is medical advice. Nothing that you hear on this show should even be, take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to give you what I know or what I believe to be the truth to the best of my knowledge, to the absolute best of my knowledge, and weigh it against reality. Take it and go fact check me. I don't fucking care. I'm not going to pretend to be right about stuff. I'm wrong about shit all the time, but I have been in the fitness game for most of my life. I've been in the supplement game for, a long time in the past. So I've been around the block a few times when it comes to fitness, when it comes to supplements, when it comes to certain performance enhancing substances that people like to use. So I know what I'm talking about, and I can confidently say that this is my wheelhouse, So I wrote a few things down. I'll kind of go through this step by step, and I might go off on a few tangents as I normally do, but hopefully you guys are accustomed to that at this point. Let's see here. I wonder, hey, write in or, leave a comment. Can you guys hear when I click my pen? Because I never know how strong these microphones are. Okay. I'm already going off on a tangent. I'm sorry. We already talked about me not being a doctor. I want to talk about where this rhetoric came from, because that's what a lot of this is in a way. The truth is there is some reality to the situation. Well, all of our testosterone levels are at least 50% lower than they were a couple of generations ago. The truth within the rhetoric is that, generally speaking, society at large has lower testosterone levels than humans ever had before. For example, when our parents were growing up, when their parents were growing up, their testosterone levels, men and women alike, women have testosterone too, were double what we're seeing today. And that's not cool, and I'm not going to pretend to know how that happened, but testosterone is a good thing. Testosterone makes bodies work. It makes us stronger. It helps us sleep. It helps us recover. It helps us burn fat. It helps us think better. It does a lot of cool things, in addition to making guys like think about sex all the time, because that's one of the main drivers of it, right? What I want to talk about, though, or really kind of try to get my head around, is who started talking about this first. and why they started talking about it. And I imagine it was some scientist or doctor or someone who noticed these levels plummeting in the first place, but then who kind of took it and ran with it. Because again, I am seeing this like throughout social media, throughout my daily life. And I think just more and more people are talking about it, which is a good thing, but people are really, really dumb. And I think we've seen over the last few years what like a little rhetoric put into the hands of the idiot masses can take us to some really weird places. So I think it's a really good idea for us all to kind of pump the brakes first before we start talking about this too much. And one surefire way that I think we can get that done is if you're out there right now and you're thinking about supplementing for your testosterone, or God forbid, going to a doctor and getting artificial testosterone, for the love of God, get your levels tested first. Get a blood panel run. I try to do this once or twice a year just for my own benefit, my own training. I like to know what my cholesterol levels are. I like to know what my free test is. I do urine test. I test myself very regularly because I have very specific fitness goals, and I'm kind of a hypochondriac. So I like to just know where all my numbers are. You don't have to do that. Definitely, don't feel like you have to be like me. But if you're going to seek treatment, go to a good doctor for one thing, because there's some shitty doctors out there too. Not most of them I think are great, but there are some unscrupulous doctors. So go to a good doctor, get yourself tested, get a blood panel, and then work with your doctor on what the best approach is. Work with a doctor and work with a trainer. Do a lot of fucking research, and we'll get into why that's important a little bit later on in this episode. But for the love of God, do this through a doctor if you're going to seek treatment. Don't just try to take this into your own hands. There's a lot of people, I think we've also noticed in the last couple of years, trying to like pretending that they're doctors. I don't know if you guys have noticed this too. I had an episode in the past where a similar point was made about vaccines. It's not just that. It's people read op-ed articles or even educational, like actual educational articles written by scientists, and then they walk away from those articles thinking that they're like informed, and they're like, I'm a doctor now, and you're not. That's called Dunning-Kruger, the Dunning-Kruger effect. You can look that up. It's basically, I'm going to try to put it in a nutshell, and I'm going to fail because it's a complex disorder, but it's being so ignorant that you don't know how ignorant you are. It's like we're so dumb on a subject that we can't even begin to comprehend the reality of that subject. However, our narcissism gets in the way and our egos get in the way, and we fill in the gaps of our knowledge with that narcissism and with that sort of egocentricity. And we carry ourselves with this sort of false sense of intellectual authority that isn't real. That's our ego. Our ego's made that. And ego is something that none of us are ever going to escape. So we kind of have to deal with it. But the best way to deal with Dunning-Kruger is to kind of check yourself as often as you can, and just remind yourself that you ain't shit, and you are not a doctor, and you could always be wrong. I try to consistently remind myself that there's a good to fair chance that I can be wrong all the time. That's what I try to remind myself of. And it's a really good way to, try to stay humble when you're doing this kind of research. Anyway, here I am going off on those tangents. Get yourself tested. And then depending on what your numbers are, if your numbers are where they probably should be for someone your age, fucking don't do anything. Then if you feel the need to go and get tested because, you're depressed or you're sleepy all the time, or you don't have a lot of energy, you're not motivated, your sex drive is down, and then you get tested and your testosterone levels are fine, there's something else going on. You're having another problem that you need to evaluate. And this is going to take, again, work with your doctor, work with your therapist if you have one, and work with yourself. This is going to take a lot of soul searching, and you really have to kind of look within, so to speak, and get your shit together. You got to pull your head out of your ass and figure out what your problem really is. And I think a lot of people are kind of terrified of doing that because people are really scared of being alone with their thoughts. Nobody really wants to do that. But at the end of the day, those thoughts are going to be with you for the rest of your fucking life. So you only have two options. You can hide and let them torture you forever, or you can face them and embrace the suck for a little bit. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be fun, but you're going to conquer them. At the end, you're going to come out of that tunnel a better person, and you're not going to have to deal with those thoughts anymore. So sit at home, be a big kid. I was about to say be a big boy, but I don't want to be uninclusive. And get your shit together. You know, you got one shot. You got one shot at this fucking roller coaster of life, and it is a tragic waste to spend it, you know, being tortured by your own thoughts, your own anxieties, your own insecurities. You need to dive into those things and really face them and figure out what you need to do to overcome them. And I think if more people did that, we wouldn't be seeking external treatments to our problems, because we would find that most of the treatments and most of the cures to our problems are within us. But I'm going on a big time tangent now. I'm not trying to get too philosophical today. I don't have that kind of time, and I don't think you guys do either. This next part's going to be funny. We need to stop saying toxic masculinity. This ideology, and I'm going to try not to get too political here, but ideologies that say masculinity is toxic are toxic to society. And it is these types of ideologies that are the amplifiers of problems like low testosterone. And I this is a nutshell that when cracked open, I can talk about for hours and hours and hours. And I simply don't have, again, I don't have the time, and I don't think I have the cognitive capacity right now to try to explain that. When men are told that their very nature is toxic, that creates a generation of dudes that hate themselves. If you hate yourself, you know, the brain and the body start doing a lot of weird things. They start releasing stressors and stress hormones that they shouldn't be releasing, and you start creating your own anxiety and your own depression. And in those mental states and physical states, you can ultimately end up lowering your own testosterone, you know, because when you feel like that, you start eating like dog shit. You don't sleep properly. You start drinking, smoking. People turn to vices to feel good. You know, it is a vicious circle that ultimately ends up putting people in some really unhealthy environments that will cause your body to kind of shut down on its own. And masculinity isn't toxic, for fuck's sake. It's not. I think the lack of masculinity is toxic. I think masculinity is, I don't think this is a fact. Masculinity is necessary. It's necessary for society. It's necessary for culture. It's necessary for the safety of our future. And I think whoever decided to start calling it toxic should be found and publicly humiliated until they drive off of a cliff, because it's absolutely not true. And it has been so damaging to our kids, to our youth, and to a lot of people for generations before I was even born. I mean, they started talking about this bullshit, and it's just really kind of led our society down a path to complete madness. And you know, you can't say men are toxic, like masculinity is toxic, and then get angry at the men when they start acting like a bunch of bitches, you know. And that's kind of where we are right now. We've cut the balls off of our society, and you need masculinity. You just need it. You need masculinity as much as you need femininity. It's true. You know, I mean, you can say masculinity is toxic, but then you also have to say that bridges are toxic, and skyscrapers are toxic, and plumbing is toxic, and roads, and, you know, soldiers and people who built all of civilization. You have to say that all that is toxic as well, you know. And if all that is toxic, then you have to explain to me how you're going to live outside of society and outside of civilization without masculinity. Because tell me how you're going to get into the woods and survive if you're just like an effeminate bitch man. Like you're not. And this is not a knock on women or a knock on femininity. Femininity is equally important, and it's about that balance. You know, it's not saying that masculinity is necessary is not the same as saying femininity is useless. We've made men feel like if they are masculine, they are bad people, which makes no sense to me. There was a couple years ago they were trying to equate masculine, strong men with morals and men with values and men with convictions to rapists and like just horrible degenerates. And it's not, I can't think of a masculine person who would ever rape someone. That's one of the most emasculine things I think anyone could ever do. So that's another like rhetoric gem that just came out of nowhere, makes absolutely no sense, but succeeded in driving our society to do stupid shit. But I don't I don't even want to talk about this anymore because it's such a stupid topic and it's such a stupid line and it's nonsense, and I don't want to talk about nonsense on this show. So quit saying toxic masculinity. Masculinity is not toxic. Neither is femininity, but we need masculine men. We need them. They are a necessary driver for our civilization. We have to have them. So if you're a person who thinks masculinity is toxic, shut up. Shut the fuck up. Moving on. If you are a person who, like we talked about earlier, went to your doctor and got your levels tested and you have low testosterone, you're sitting at a testosterone level that is low for your age. If you are working with a good doctor or a good nutritionist or a good specialist, whoever you're talking to, the first thing they should be telling you to do is to evaluate your life. Are you eating properly? Are you on a proper sleep schedule? Are you exercising regularly? Are you getting enough sunlight every day? Do you enjoy your job? All of these things play a massive role in the way our bodies release hormones. So that should be the first thing you think of if your testosterone level is low is, what am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? And what am I not doing that I probably should be doing? So that's priority number one, is to get your life together, basically, is, for lack of a better way of saying that, get your shit together. If you're not working out, you need to get in the gym. People have to get in the gym. And people think that this is, I'm going to get a little bit controversial here because I'm going to rip on people who are probably really proud of themselves. And it's good. You should be proud of yourself for getting in the gym. If you're in, twice a week, you should be proud of that. If you're in 3 times a week, you should be more proud. If you're in once a week, that's not enough, but good for you for making it in. Here's the truth. Working out is the bare minimum. You're supposed to do that. It shouldn't be something that we are overly proud of that we exercised today, because that is the absolute bare minimum that we need to be doing. That should be as important as tying your fucking shoes. And the reason why is because our ancestors were chasing fucking tigers and running from tigers. Like, the human body is built to move. And when you don't move it, you get fat, you get useless, and you get depressed, and your testosterone goes down, and it creates a vicious cycle where you can never get out of that. So get the fuck up, go to the gym, work out. You need to be in the gym minimum 3 times a week. Everyone needs to be in the gym at a minimum of 3 times a week. We need to be more active as an entire society. You will notice results. You will notice, I can't say for sure that your body will kick into gear right away and your testosterone levels will just be what they're supposed to be, but you will instantly notice a difference when you build a habit to work out religiously. The negative impacts of not doing this. I'm sorry. I'm trying to go like step by step the way that I wrote this down. I think I already covered most of the negative effects of not getting your life together. Getting your life together means something different for every person. So nobody can give you like a prescription step by step how to get your life together, because everyone is different. And I am sure as fuck not the dude to tell you how to live your life. I would never try to do that. I would never want to do that. And I think people who try to do that are sorely mistaken, because Your life is not my life, and it's never going to be. So you have to do what's right for you. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. That's going to take a lot of soul searching. You really have to ask yourself some heavy questions and have those difficult conversations with yourself. What does your life need? What does your body need? What does your mind need? And why are you not giving that to yourself? You know, is it a money thing? You don't have the budget, because that's 99.9% of the time that's bullshit. Is it a time thing? 80% of the time that's bullshit. Is it an attitude thing? 99% of the time that's probably your problem. You have the wrong mentality. And the reason I'm saying that is because, well, frankly, I've noticed that in myself. Maybe this is a self-projection. But I can look back at my own life and think of all of the excuses that I've made not to basically prevent myself from doing the things that are necessary to be the best version of myself possible. And all those excuses are fucking lies. They're just horseshit. They're little lies that we tell ourselves to prevent ourselves from doing what hurts, because we know that it's gonna hurt. But here's the truth. You only grow when you're fucking hurting. You only grow when the body suffers. And when the body suffers and gets broken down, it builds itself back stronger. When the mind suffers and breaks down, it builds itself back stronger. The only way that we grow and get better is when we suffer and when we put ourselves through these difficult trials. That's what we're here for. That's what humans are meant to do. We're meant to struggle, grow, and become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. That shit hurts. It's going to. There's never going to be a fucking shortcut or an easy way to do this. So that's that. Tangents. I'm gonna fucking, if I got paid for every tangent that I went on. Negative impact of using artificial testosterone. This is the part where I have to remind everyone again that I'm not a doctor. But from what I have noticed, just from pure observation over the years, and from what I've read, from what I've heard, the use of artificial testosterone is necessary for a small substrata of human beings. There's a small percentage of the population truly needs artificial testosterone. The people who are not in need of that and are turning to it first thing, like instead of going through the proper channels and kind of reevaluating themselves and doing all the things that we talked about earlier, if they just go straight to artificial testosterone at the age of 25, that almost 100% of the time will cause more problems than it will solve. This episode is brought to you by Hex Beauty Lab. A lot of people have been asking me if I actually use Hex products. Like, hey, bro, do you actually? Yeah, I use all their stuff. I use all the stuff that I talk about all the time, you crazies. So I brought some of the products out that I do use just to prove that I have them and I use them all the time. This is the Jade Aloe Cleanser. I use this every morning, sometimes at night. This is the night cream. This is the day cream. I use this stuff all the time. And guess what? You want to know something crazy? My skin looks fucking awesome. It looks better than yours. Your skin probably looks stupid. So you guys should go over to their website, hexbeautylab.com, or their Instagram at hexbeautylab, and check out some of their stuff so you can have cool skin like me and you can look great instead of looking like a crunchy handbag. Okay. Use the code Here's Why at checkout, HERESWHY, all caps. At checkout, you're going to get a great deal on all of their skincare stuff, and we can all be glowy and natural and not crunchy. And that's what I want. Okay. So cheers. Go do that. Thank you. To your body and to your balls to stop producing testosterone. And when that happens, you have a very narrow window of cutting yourself off of that testosterone supply before your body basically forgets how to make testosterone, for lack of a better word. So if you're a guy and you're like 25 or even 30 and you just jump straight to artificial testosterone and you don't have kids, you're going to want to reevaluate that thought. You're going to have to rethink that, because if you're going to want to have kids in the future, you're not going to be able to do that. And having kids on artificial testosterone, from what I understand, is not really the best idea either. It's a shame that, we live in a society where if you have a problem, take a pill for it. If that pill causes another problem, take another pill for it. So oftentimes people are going to go straight to their doctors and just ask for testosterone. Just fake testosterone, inject it, rub it on your arm. There's gels that you can use and stuff. And it's just going to cause more issues than it's going to solve. And not to mention, when you boost your testosterone naturally by doing the things that we talked about before, by eating right and by sleeping right and by training every day or as often as possible, as your natural testosterone levels rise, the body is also doing all of the other things necessary to regulate that testosterone. So all of these other systems are kicking into gear as well, instead of just your testosterone flying through the roof with no other regulatory processes happening. And if you have too much testosterone, I think all of us have probably been in the room with someone who is just like tested out of their minds, they just have high testosterone. And a lot of these guys who have been walking around without the proper testosterone levels for their entire lives or for most of their lives, and then suddenly having the proper levels of testosterone or a much higher level of testosterone, they're not going to know how to pilot themselves. They're not going to know how to navigate the new way that their brain is operating and the new urges that they might have or the new aggression that might come through. Testosterone is an incredibly powerful driver of a lot of primal feelings that men deal with every day. There was I'm going to blank on this person's name, but it was a pre-op trans man, I think. So this is a woman transitioning to be a man. And this person was on testosterone treatment, right? And one of the first things that, when asked, one of the first things that they noted was that they felt sorry for biological men. And the reason was she didn't, or he didn't, they didn't understand that, how do I put this? They didn't understand the impact that testosterone made on the brain and on the behavior of men. And the example that this person used was their inability to keep their eyes from drifting downward when looking at a woman. Whereas this dude couldn't stop staring at tits. It was like, he said, the word he used was testosterone made my eyes like glue, or made breasts like made tits like glue for my eyes, or some shit like that. But in this, look, I'm not trying to make any excuses for dudes who are out there staring at people's tits. Ladies, I'm sorry. I know that probably sucks for you. But it's important to have an explanation behind that. Sometimes it's just a childish dude who can't control himself and maybe he's a piece of shit. But more often than not, look, testosterone is very strong. It's a very potent drug, and it changes people's behaviors. It changes the way our brains work. It changes the way that our thoughts are coming out. It changes everything about us. It's what makes us men, basically. It's what makes us the way that we are, the way that men are. And men are fucking pigs. I'll say that. I'll say that up and down the street all day long. Men are not exactly easy to deal with, but we also built all of civilization, so you kind of have to put up with us. Anyway, I think that covers the negative impact of artificial testosterone. It's basically, it's never a good idea to jump to a pharmaceutical approach when there could be a natural, holistic medical approach that you could be taking. The body is an absolutely perfect machine, and it has the power to cure, in my opinion, most of the things that ail us today. And if there is a way that your body can sort itself out on its own, I personally recommend you take that route first, even if it's really fucking hard. Because if there's one thing we know about pharmaceuticals, it's that, a customer cured is a customer lost. And it's just better to trust your body before you trust a drug or something artificial. That's my take. That's what I think. So take that with a grain of salt. And last but certainly not least, we need to talk about conspiracy theories, because it's almost impossible for me to think that nobody saw this coming. I think back in the 40s was when the sugar industry bribed scientists to come out with basically studies that proved sugar was safe and saturated fat was actually the enemy. Like that's a real thing. The sugar, big sugar, for lack of a better word, these powerful sugar billionaires or whatever, they bribed scientists to publish studies that fit a narrative that took the fear away from sugar and put it onto saturated fat. And the reason that these guys did this is because they were fucking sugar guys. They owned all the sugar. They wanted to sell fucking Cocoa Puffs and sugar cubes and stuff for coffee or whatever. So that's a problem. And we know that happened. So who's to say that, more powerful people didn't know that Teflon was nuking our testosterone? I mean, that's been happening since Teflon came out. And when did they find, Teflon's been around for fucking my entire life. So when did they find that out? And if it was a long time ago, why didn't we hear about it sooner? Because Teflon is in everything. I thought it was just a frying pan thing. I thought they just put that on pans so that our eggs didn't stick on it or whatever. But that shit is in everything. It's in like the produce. It's in all of our packaging. That shit is everywhere. And we just found out that it's nuking our testosterone every day. I also heard that this is the problem with conspiracy theories. It's like, I heard this, I heard that, but this is also another statistic that you can look up. This is a real thing, that it's estimated that every person eats about a credit card worth of plastic every year. So there's plastic in the food supply as well. And that's nuking our testosterone. So we're talking about the food supply is basically poisoned, whether it's being poisoned on purpose or not. We're eating poisoned food, and it should come as no surprise to us that that's making our testosterone plummet. My question is this being done on purpose? If it is, why and who's behind it? And if it's not, then somebody had to know about this and they didn't tell us. So why the fuck didn't they tell us? I am not going to jump down this rabbit hole right now because I will never come out of it. And it'll fucking blow my mind to pieces. And I don't have that kind of time right now, but I do have time to say thank you. Thank you all for joining me again. I think I'm going to wrap this one up because y'all know how I get with conspiracies and crazy people stuff. So I'm just going to tie a bow on this one. I do really appreciate you sticking with me. I hope you come by next week for another rousing episode. I think that's all I got, folks. Thank you. Love you guys. Bye.